Hey Catholic Match, the video you're about to see is part of a brand new initiative called Relate, which is the community feature on Catholic Match. If you would like to join this event and events like this live, please check us out at catholicmatch.com/relate or click the link in the description below. Thank you and enjoy the video.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? It is fantastic to see you all. I hope you guys are having an awesome evening. I know I am. It is finals week at the school. Well, it's prep for finals week at the school, so it is absolute chaos at my house. I haven't got a breather today. But hopefully you guys can relax with this evening and enjoy our show tonight. We're gonna have a lot of fun. If you guys don't know our speaker for this evening, or our guest for this evening, I wouldn't call him speaker, but our guest for this evening, he is an awesome person and a hilarious guy, and I'm really excited for you guys to get to ask whatever questions you want. If this is your first time on Real Catholic Voices, welcome. How tonight works is you guys just get to ask whatever questions you like of the Catholic voices that we bring on. Right, we brought on some amazing people, and we bringing on another amazing person tonight. So any questions you guys have, okay, any questions you guys have about faith, relationships, anything in the world that you guys want answered, we're here to talk about. Okay. So how you do that is, if you guys see the little Q&A button in the top right corner, you can click the Q&A button, get your questions submitted. We'll get them posted on here, and we'll talk about them live for you guys to talk about. So if you have any questions at all, let's talk. Let's chat. Speaking of chatting, let's bring on our guest for this evening. We're super excited to welcome him to the stage here. So please welcome the classic. We were talking in the back of stage, the back of house, how I listened to him as a kid growing up on the way back from noon mass, and he was saying how old that makes him feel. But no, it's not old. It's just classic, right? It's classic. That's what we like to call it. But please, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Ray Guarendi to the stage. And if you could bring on Dr. Ray, that would be fantastic.
Classic. Huh? Is that a euphemism for aged?
Take it as you will, Doctor. Take it as you will. I guess.
All right, I'm not going to tell you, Tony, how old I am exactly, but I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
My last birthday cake had over 50 candles on it, and that was the piece I had.
That's a good one. That's funny. Well, that just means that with age comes wisdom, right? With age comes wisdom. So we have a very wise man among us, guys. So I'm really excited to talk to you, Dr. Ray. Like I told you in the back of stage, right? My family has always thought you were so funny and so wise and intelligent. So I'm really excited to pick your brain, right? I know a lot of your shows are based off of families, parenting, right? And tonight we get to talk a little bit of everything, probably a little more to the relationship side of things, but I'm really excited to pick your brain about some things.
Wait a minute, Tony, wait a minute, man. So right. You're basically getting some free therapy here?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Hold on a second. I got to start this meter. Hold on.
If we're getting free therapy, I'll bring in my wife here, and then we'll get some real
$12 a question, Tony. It's $12 a question, and okay, that's just true and false. If you want short answer, it's a lot more.
What about multiple choice? No. Well, Dr. Ray, I would love to. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself first before we begin? Tell them a little bit about yourself, what's your background, and the audience get to know you if they don't know you already.
I started out in engineering at Case Tech, and I always wondered. I remember in my first engineering class, I asked the prof, "Do those trains really go that fast?" And so I realized I wasn't suited for engineering after the first year. Then I got into pre-law. I thought, all right, I'm in pre-law. What's a good general degree from pre-law? Oh, psychology. That's what I'll do. I'll do psychology, then I'll go to law school. Well, my senior year, I thought, this psychology stuff, can be pretty fascinating. If it gets, sometimes it's pretty flaky, but it can be fascinating. So I kept going. I went all the way to PhD, and I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to graduate and go out and work for a living. And I remember panicking. I went down to the admissions department. I said, is there any other courses I can take? Archaeology, just anything. And they said, no, sir, you graduated. So I went into an office and I saw people for years and years. Then I started to consult in different groups. And one thing led to another. I did a lot of secular media. I was on Oprah, Jenny Jones, CBS This Morning, all the shows. And I realized, no. I want to go on shows where I'm allowed to talk to faith, where I don't have to worry about what kind of words I say, what I use. And so I very fortunately got a chance to be on Catholic media, and that was 23 years ago. Yeah, right out of college, 23 years ago. And well, ever since, I've been lucky enough to be where I am. So, wow. And in that 23 years, I got to tell you, I had close to, if you total it up, 9 really good shows. If you piece them together, it's kind of like when I pray the rosary. When I pray the rosary, my mind wanders all over the place. And I figure that I've got in me over the years probably about 12 or 15 really good rosaries if you total them up.
That's a very fair way to look at it. There's something about the rosary that just puts me to sleep every single time without fail. If I can't sleep, say the rosary. 2 decades in, clocked out. So,
well, do what I do, Tony. Do what I do. I pray the rosary in Aramaic while I kneel on broken glass. And I think that really, it takes days off of purgatory. It really does. I was reading in the June issue of Purgatory Today, where they said that it does take days off purgatory. Look it up.
Fair enough. Yeah. We have one thing in common, Dr. Ray, is that we were both failed. We're both failed pre-law students, so we got that in common.
We ducked out early enough, huh?
Mm-hmm. I was pre-law, and now I'm a history teacher. So the world works in mysterious ways. But I'm curious, Doctor. I wanted to start our conversation here. I know some people have some questions here. I want to start our conversation with something that I've been noticing a lot in the Catholic dating world, and that is. And I'm curious if you've noticed a similar thing. This is specifically about young people, just in your work and such. And that is, I feel like there's a certain sense of apathy among young people when it comes to, I guess, specifically dating, but life in general as well. But there's a certain sense of apathy and almost laziness, or an almost a lack of going out of their way to find love, right? Which is something that I feel like a lot of the previous generations did not have to this extent, right? Every generation has their issues, right? But I think this generation, I guess my generation, Gen Z specifically, I've noticed just talking to young people, talking to people who are in the dating world, the singles, a sense of if it's not perfect, if it doesn't fit perfectly, right, then it's not God's will, right? Or if it doesn't fit my idea, right? I see this all the time we talk with people who are super, super hesitant to deal with maybe dating long distance or something like that, right? They just would rather not date than do something hard, right? Or date hard at least, right? So I'm curious, like in your line of work, have you seen this? We'll call it apathy, right? This general apathy among young people when it comes to the dating culture and stuff like that.
I don't know if I'd call it apathy, Tony. I might call it lack of energy. And I know that sounds similar, but I think it's different. For example, one of the first things I hear, especially among young women, is they are frustrated at the lack of faith-filled Catholic guys out there.
Sure.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, not the least of which is 40% of millennials have since either neglected the faith or rejected the faith, or just decided there wasn't anything in it they wanted to be concerned with. It interferes with their life choices. Okay, that's one. So now you got a smaller pool right there.
Sure.
Secondly, it's not as easy. I had 6 aunts and uncles, 6 pairs of aunts and uncles. All 6 of them married Catholics. All 6 of them married Italian Catholics. How did they do that? because they were in an Italian Catholic community. That's the way it was. Those communities are not there anymore. They're gone. So you got to reach outside the community. You got to put yourself in positions to meet people. It's that simple. You're not going to, in the line in, I think, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Well, if you wait there, they ain't going to come. You've got to expose yourself. I have 5 daughters, and you got to expose yourself, whether it's belonging to groups, whether it's getting into Young Catholics Professional Association, whatever it is, you have got to touch somehow more people. Because if you don't, it's no longer a culture that says, oh yeah, there's Catholic guys all over the place wanting to get married. This is great. Because a lot of those Catholic guys are in their mother's basements playing video games. The other problem is this: if you look at all the research, young people are naturally drifting toward more isolation. They are on phones, they are on computers, they are doing more of those kinds of isolated activities. And the research says this: they just don't socialize, not anywhere near as much as previous generations. And without doing that, it's not likely somebody's just going to cross your path. Another thing, don't seek the perfect at the cost of the good. There are relationships you can explore if you go into them with your eyes open. Let's say you meet a great Christian guy, not Catholic, Christian girl, not Catholic, but very, very, very faith-oriented. You say to yourself, well, forget it. I'm not even going to let this one get off the ground. No chance. Well, what would happen if you got to know the person a little bit? You saw where they were faith-wise. You saw what their mindset was toward the Catholic Church, toward the fact that you're not going to leave the Catholic Church. So they're open to looking at the Catholic Church. My wife was not Catholic when I married her, but she was a very faith-filled, depth young woman. So over time, she converted. And I tell her, I said, it was because of my holy influence, wasn't it? And she said, no, Ray, that made it take longer. But anyway, she finally got there. So you got to be careful on this. You can't just simply say, well, he doesn't check all the boxes. You might want to give him a little chance to check a few boxes. You could always say, this isn't turning out the way I had hoped. And you can pull out.
I think that's an interesting point. It kind of leads it to another point that I've heard quite a bit is, on one end, right, you have the Catholic women who the Catholic women are saying, why are there no good men out here? And then you have the Catholic men, right? And the number one thing I hear from Catholic men is nobody's giving me a shot, right? Nobody's giving me a chance, right? And I think there's a culture of, right, you want to find the perfect guy, and it's great. Every lady wants to find the perfect guy, right? But I like this, don't waste the good looking for the perfect, to a certain extent. Where this comes to mind. Literally yesterday, I was talking to this lady on Catholic Match, and she was just talking with me about how she's having a hard time finding someone. And I said, okay, what are you looking for in a guy? And she sent me, I wish I could pull it up, she sent me a book of not even suggestion, but must-haves. This guy must be this, must be this, must be this, right? Cannot be this, cannot be this, right? Some of them, obviously very good, right? Has a good relationship with the Lord, wants to raise their kids Catholic, stuff like that. That's all great, right? And then others, right? Has to be taller than me. Can't be too skinny or too fat, right? Those little things. I'm curious if that is something you're seeing a lot, because I see that a lot too. With both male and female. I would say a little more with female though, is while you have the apathy or the laziness, whatever you want to call it, of the men, you also have the kind of the over scrupulosity of the fairer sex sometimes. Would you agree with that statement, or quite not quite?
Tony, I am hoping that when you saw that list, your first response was, I don't know anybody that could fulfill all these except Dr. Ray. That's the only person I know that
I
would
was
meet
going to
all.
say, you're going to be a nun. That's what I wanted to say. But...
Well, and that's not far from the truth, because I think there's also a fear factor. Okay, the young people are looking at the older generation's marriages, these marriages that fall apart. 40% of them fall apart. All right. They also look at the numbers of people living together. More people living together under 35 than now are married under 35. So they look at this and they think, I do not, under any circumstances, want to risk something like that happening to me.
Right.
So I will do everything I can to guarantee this won't happen to me. Here's what I tell folks. I say, I've seen a lot of relationships fail because you didn't take enough time to know the person. I haven't seen too many fail because you took your time getting to know the person, who they are, how they think, how they treat their mother, how they treat the waiter. Yeah, to see these things, you have to know these things. My wife and I dated for about 5.5 years. And it was a problem. It was a problem because she felt that I was dragging my feet. So about 2 years into the relationship, she gave me an ultimatum. She said, Ray, you either tell me your last name or it's over. Oh my, push, you know.
That's funny.
So in fact, that is one of the problems. If you're going to be so afraid that this marriage at some point is going to turn on you, and this person that the first year or so you just thought was your gift to marriage is shifting and changing, then you're going to be so utterly detailed about who they are that you may never find anyone.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting balance between somebody in the chat said, right, seems like she knows what she wants, right? Yeah, it's good to know what you want, right? But at the same time, right, that can also come at the expense of getting what you want. When it comes to a marriage, right? Especially, I mean, when it comes to personalities change, physical appearance.
I guess I would say to her, Tony, changes. I would say, well, if that's all that you want, how are you so sure you're all that somebody else wants?
Yeah.
You know, if you're talking heights now, or you're talking sense of humor, or you're talking these kinds of things that can be learned or can't be learned. Well, he can't be bald. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Now he's done there. So when you start talking about stuff like that and you're separating it from the morals, you're separating it from the depth of personality. Now you're starting to throw in a lot of stuff that almost says, I've got my wedding shower and here's my gift registry list.
Yeah, no, it's crazy where, I mean, it is all nice and good to say, but it's about the personality, right? But there should be a level of attractiveness at the same time that you're attracted to the person. Now that can obviously grow over time, but I think that's something that a lot of people are holding on to a certain extent. Or at least this fairy tale princess getting swept up by Prince Charming, or sweeping up Princess Charming, or whatever you want to call it. Right, this fear, and I think that's holding a lot of people back. I think we have a lot of really interesting questions here coming up, Dr. And I wanna get to, so we're not just blabbering back and forth.
I want to get. What scared me a little bit about doing this? I sent into you my list of characteristics that I would hope for in a woman, and the profile that came up was my wife, and I'm thinking, what is she doing on Catholic Match? Yeah, so I got to talk to her after this interview about that.
I was going to say I can suspend her profile if you want.
Thank you. And by the way, she's using her high school picture too. That's the other thing that bothers me.
Yeah. No, that's the funniest thing is, working for Catholic Match. I'm a happily married man, but I need to have a Catholic Match account because, I work for Catholic Match. And so it's pretty funny. They don't have, because you put on whether you're annulled or single or widowed or something, they don't have a tab for happily married. And so I had to ask my wife when I made my Catholic Match account, what do you want?
Said,
you want me to be widowed? You
can't put happily married there, Tony. Just put married.
Yeah. Well, let's get to some questions here, Dr. Ray, because we have some really good ones here. And I'm
Okay.
really curious. Annie, if you could throw one of them up on the screen here. So this one is from Mary Alice. Welcome, Mary Alice. Good to see you again. Dr. Ray, on a first date, the gent does most of the talking, doesn't ask any questions of me in order to get to know me. What do you recommend I do to get him to listen? I've tried to interject a number of comments, but they went nowhere. Okay. How do
Well,
you get a guy to listen to you?
yeah, I'm afraid you're not going to teach him to listen.
Mm,
I think that is a deal breaker. If he comes out and he's so self-focused and you think to yourself, well, maybe he's nervous, maybe he's got to keep talking because he's afraid the conversation will dry up or drift. Anybody listening, if you want to make a good first impression so that the person comes away thinking they were very likable, show an interest in them. Ask all about them. Ask about their life, their preferences, their loves, whatever it is. You can ask a million questions. More women tell me I am sick of being with guys that it's all about them.
mm,
I'm gonna tell you that this young lady who wrote this, for me, that is a huge, to use a cliche, red flag.
yeah.
If you want to just basically confirm it, like vet it, like you have to do when you put in your password and they say reconfirm password, go out one more time. If he does it again, you got your answer.
Yeah.
This is a person that's pretty self-absorbed and he is not showing any or little interest in hearing about you and knowing about you. And yeah, that may be an irritant when you're just dating initially, but in a partner for life, ooh,
Yeah.
that's real scary.
I think especially if it's like one of the if it's the first date and they don't want to get to know anything about you, like, I'm sorry, guy, you're not that interesting, right? Go get to know her, right? Where if it's the first date and you're not interested in learning about the other person, right? Yeah, no, I would agree. Flee to the hills, as we like to say.
Well, the question too that she's asking is, well, how do I get him to listen? And what
Mm.
she's saying is that there's some kind of social psychological formula to make somebody who's self-absorbed not be self-absorbed. And if in fact he is talking about himself indicates a larger personality trait like self-focus, then you're not going to come across any formula and you're not going to come across any kind of persuasive words to get him to say, oh, I've just been talking all about myself. Please forgive me. I want to know about you.
Yeah,
That may be
especially
short-lived.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Awesome. Keep your head up, Mary Alice. That's what we'll say. All right, let's get to the next question here. My marriage was annulled, and this comes from an anonymous person. My marriage was annulled, and my kids and I have no contact with my ex. What do you recommend I do to make sure my kids aren't too messed up? Okay, this is right in your wheelhouse, Dr. Ray. What do you think?
Several bullet points, Mom. First of all, you can tell the kids, and I'm sure you have, so forgive me if I'm saying something you've already done a million times. Let them know it's not because of them. And you can give the truth without being ugly about it. You can say, well, I don't quite understand all the reasons why your dad is not having any contact with us. He made his choices, and kids, I can't do anything about that. But the one thing I can tell you for sure, it's not because of you. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is, this is the number one thing I hear from single moms: discipline control. They don't have the kind of discipline control they would like, either because they feel guilty. I mean, look at your kids being ripped off, right? I mean, dad pulled out of their lives. So now, oh boy, I can't ask them to dry the dishes too. They've already been shortchanged by life. No, you don't compensate for what happened to them by being permissive. And you develop some very good discipline skills so that you're not always nagging, negotiating, reminding, threatening, yelling. Basically, you don't want to go to confession. Bless me, Father. Before I had children, I was pretty nice. Now I'm not pretty or nice. And I just want to know, would it be a serious sin to think about shooting your kid with a bazooka? So if you don't have discipline skills, you're going to get frustrated. There's no question about that. Discipline is not words, it is action. Here's one of the pieces of research that I particularly liked. Single moms do better with discipline when they are more guy-like. Now, let me say what that means. As a rule, moms are more verbal than dads. They talk more. They warn more. They negotiate more. They try to understand more. Guys tend to be less words, more action. So as a single mom, you got to work towards less words, more action, because here's a simple rule of discipline. The more authority that your kids see that you have, you're going to say what you mean and you're going to follow through with some consequence, the less you will have to discipline. More authority equals less discipline. Less discipline means better good times. Simple formula.
Yeah. No, that's very fair. Yeah. Look at that. Great answer. I have nothing to add with that. That's great.
I'm glad. I feel good that you don't, I was a little nervous there, Tony. You were saying, well, Dr. Ray, I don't really quite agree with you on a number of things that you said.
Well, Dr. Ray, as a gentle parent, let me.
Hey, Tony, let me tell your viewers right now, if you're practicing gentle parenting, that is one almost surefire way to not be gentle, to be nasty, because gentle parenting doesn't work. Gentle parenting is counter to the Christian understanding of the human. The Christian understanding says we have fallen nature, which means we're self-centered, which means we're stubborn, which means we think the world rotates around us. I mean, that's our nature, and that's the nature of a 5-year-old kid. So if you're trying to reason with this child, to gently persuade, to give options and choices, to use I messages, not you messages, all those can work, but they are not a substitute for calm authority by a parent. You could do all that if you have calm authority, but you can't do that if that's your sole style, because eventually you're going to get frustrated. And when you get frustrated, you get ugly.
Yeah, no, that's fair. My mom used to say, "There's no such thing as gentle parenting. It's just not parenting, right?"
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. All right, let's get to our next question here. Annie, what do you got for us? What is the best way to embrace significant cultural differences? That's a great question. It's the best way to embrace significant cultural differences with a potential spouse. Okay.
Depends what those differences are. If those differences happen to spill over into your deepest held moral beliefs, if a cultural difference is, well, we don't have more than 2 children in my culture. Now that's spilling over into what you most deeply believe.
Sure.
If these are cultural differences regarding, say, socializing, this person only socializes with certain folks, that could be negotiable, but it could also be friction. So I guess cultural differences that are respected. He respects yours, and you respect his to the degree that they don't make you compromise your deepest held moral beliefs. That's big. All right. And you need to, well, you don't need to do anything, but it would be wise to understand what those are before you marry, because right now they might not interfere with too much until you have to start making some pretty heavy life decisions.
Sure.
And you might want to just explore that early in this relationship. Things like kids, things like finances, things like socializing, things like going to church, all those things. If the cultural difference is a religious difference, you got to see how that's going to be navigated.
I'm curious if you could explain a little more of, right, how can we tell the difference between a cultural difference, right, that an annoyance, right? Or something that is workable, right? Workable, versus something that is just is something that cannot be remedied, right? Is cultural differences that cannot be remedied when it comes to a marriage and stuff like that, right? How can we know kind of the difference between those two?
Time and talk.
Mm.
There's nothing to stop you from asking about these things, and you're going to have to assess whether you're getting honest answers. Okay, if this person is madly enraptured with you, then they're going to be tempted to tell you what you want to hear. But time will reveal whether in fact they're going to live what they said. And it may be that in this relationship, you may have to take a little longer before you commit to marriage, because there's a lot to see here. Stuff that has to be navigated. You wouldn't have to navigate if you were marrying some Catholic person who thought like you. Okay, so you wouldn't have to navigate. I want to have kids. I want to have a lot of kids. Great. Okay. I want to raise Catholic. Great. Okay. If you want to homeschool, that's fine with me. Great. Okay.
Right.
But if you got an individual who's saying, no, homeschooling. Oh no, in my country, we don't deal with no, homeschooling is bad. So now it's starting to interfere with something that you had hoped to do. Now, if you say, okay, well, I can compromise that because this person has so many other great qualities. Okay. But you stack up a few of those. Well, I'll tell you, I'm not really a very religious person. A lot of people where I come from are not real religious. I was not raised religious. I'll go to church with you. Okay. I will go to church with you. There's a lot of people in my office. The spouse is leaving them because he or she said, yeah, I'll become Catholic. And it was only a bargaining chip. That's all it was. And they didn't really see the deepening of that faith as they courted. And then some point in the marriage, they said, you know what? I was never really into this. Got to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. It's really easy to, they'll say love is blind, right? Love is blind until you're 10 years into a marriage, right? And then then it becomes very unblind, right?
And we see what we want to see.
Yeah.
You don't enter marriage, and this is an old cliche, but don't enter marriage thinking you're going to change somebody. You may influence them for the good, and that's wonderful as long as they're open to that. But if they've got certain characteristics or certain cultural differences that are kind of locked in, don't think by being married you'll have enough time to start working on that. Chances are they'll get more exaggerated in marriage because there's more decisions you have to make together. When you're dating, it's like, well, where do you want to eat? Well, what movie do you want to watch? When you're married, it's where are we going to live? Am I going to work or not work? What do you want me to do about schooling? And all these decisions are getting bigger. Well, now, wait a minute. You told me you wanted kids, but you want to stop at 2 because we got a boy and a girl. These are a lot of decisions that you got to look at that person that you're with and say, do they have the flexibility and the openness as part of their personality to look at these things and to say, okay, I can accept that's who you are, and I will work with you and we can find good common ground on this. When my wife wanted to homeschool, initially I didn't want to. I was consulting to 12 school districts at the time. And I said, honey, that just doesn't look good. I mean, I'm consulting to all these school districts and my wife is homeschooling. Well, over about a year or two, and my wife says this is because she prayed to the Blessed Mother, but over about a year or two, because I talked to her about this and I saw what it meant to her, and I saw a little bit of what was happening to our little kids as they were being shaped by the peer culture at school, I changed. I said, okay. But I wouldn't have done that if I had dug my heels in and said, under no circumstances will we ever consider anything but public or Catholic school.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, right? A lot of marriage is about give and take, right? But then it's determining what battles to pick, right? And when to pick them, right? And what are the battles where you're going to dig your heels in, and what are the battles that you're going to surrender, right? I think it's not to give a very utilitarian view of it, but To a certain extent, that is the case sometimes. But
What guys
I
don't
think
realize, I tell this to guys all the time.
Hmm.
You want that woman to say, he treats me better than he treats anybody else. You don't want her to say, well, I don't know, he treats the guys on the team a lot better, or the people at work, the girls at work love him. I wish I got a little bit of that. Or the people at church think she's a living saint. Well, I guess they don't have to live with her. When you don't want that. You want your spouse to say, my spouse is as wonderful to me as he or she appears to everybody else.
I love that. I want to get to this next question because Annie, I'll pick this next question here because I think this is really interesting. Kind of a topic change a little bit, but similar to what we were talking about earlier. Is it wrong for a man to go into a relationship and still play video games? Okay. And he lists a couple of video games. This is Andrew from Canada. Is it wrong for a man to go into a relationship still playing video games? What do we think, Dr. A? I'll bet you'll have some pretty bold takes about this one.
Playing video games in and of themselves, depending upon the video game, it's not John Madden football, it's not race car driving, are not bad in and of themselves. The problem is, and I hear this from so many wives, I thought he was gonna outgrow this. I thought, I wish I could tell all these mothers of 13-year-old boys, please don't let your boys play these games 4 hours a day because they're going to marry somebody and then she's going to have to deal with it. Or he's on his phone constantly. He's always on his phone. That's a warning sign. Now, I think the ladies just as much are on their phones. They may not play the video games as much, but they're on their phones. So that's a real warning sign in a courtship. If you're going out to eat and the person you're with, after about 2 minutes of talking to you, is checking his or her phone and looking at the phone and all of this, this is not a good sign here. This is not a good sign. So you got to be careful. Is it wrong for a guy to do it? Well, I'll tell you what. You are on safer ground if you really care for this woman, that she doesn't think that this is all that important to you. That she knows, okay, that was part of your single life. Now, as you're getting to know somebody, there's more important things than to play video games.
Yeah. And think about how much of a gift that is as well, to be like, I love you, my wife, enough to be able to give this thing give up this thing for the betterment of my relationship, right? No matter how much you love it, right? You love them more.
My wife said to me something, Tony. Now, when I was younger, I played a lot of sports. I was very into sports, and I enjoyed following my favorite teams. As I got older, I realized, boy, that's just sucking up a lot of time. Watching anyway. I still played, but watching, that's just, you watch a football game for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, it's entertaining. I like it. That's incredible skill, but oh man, what am I doing? And so early in our marriage, I basically just started drifting away from watching sports. Thanksgiving, there's no way I'm going to that TV to watch a Thanksgiving football game. Even the college championships, I'm in Ohio, so Ohio State's big here. I haven't watched a single one of their games.
I'm in Michigan. I can't get with that.
That's right. I should cut this interview right now. And you know what my wife said to me? She said it a number of times. She said, Ray, you can't know how much I appreciate that you don't do that. That football doesn't take up several hours of your week, or baseball doesn't take up several games of your week because you're watching it. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but in essence, I prioritize other things. And my wife, seeing me not watch sports all that much anymore, I didn't realize how much she appreciated it. She says, my relatives watch sports. If we go over there on a Saturday and there's a big college game, I know where they're going to be. Nobody's going to be sitting around the table talking. I'm stuck sitting around the table talking with all the women. All the kids are downstairs, and I'm talking with the women, being a sensitive, nurturing guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, the video game thing, it's like, yes, I'm with you, but man, it's when you started talking about
I
watching
know.
sports, it's that's the thorn in my side, man. I can't
Tony,
not
when I
watch
was
those
your age, I
Buffalo.
did too. I did
Yeah.
too when I was your age. I guess I had enough of it as I grew older. And
Oh,
and
fair.
I didn't necessarily do it because I thought, well, gee, Randy would really love me to do this. No, I kind of naturally drifted away from spending so much time in front of the tube. And then I found out how much she appreciated it.
Hmm.
She
And I think
wasn't going to necessarily pull on the reins and say, Ray, wish you wouldn't watch so much of that. Because I was never crazy anyway. I mean, a game here and there, Saturday playoffs. Yeah, I got that part. One time I think it was in 1903 that the Indians made the World Series or the Browns made the playoffs. Okay, so yeah, I did watch. Okay, that was kind of cool. But it was a sporadic kind of thing. It wasn't an automatic, okay, the weekend's here. Great. College football Saturday and then the pros on Sunday. And I bet there's a bunch of women going, yeah, I wish I had that one.
Yeah. No, it's for once I got married, and I've just been married for just over a year, so it hasn't been long. But I noticed myself that we started to watch less football and stuff, because I realized I told my wife this. This was when we were engaged. I told my wife that, like, I don't like how I act after a loss, right? Or after I watch these things, right? And so I've started to back off because of the fact of, like, I don't like the man I become when I watch this, so we should back off, but yeah, it still gets me. But anyway, speaking of cell phones as well, we were talking about, right, cell phones and social media and getting off of video games and technology. We have someone here, right, a similar question. Mary Alice again, who is the person who asked about the getting a person to stop talking about themselves, right? And our first question we had said, yes, Dr. Ray, how can I get him to just leave his cell phone in the car when he comes into the restaurant? I don't want to compete with an inanimate object like a cell phone. Very frustrated with that. What would you say to, right? How do you get someone, if you are in a relationship, right? Let's say you are in a relationship, or you get into a relationship and the person who you love, right, is addicted to this, the little square box, right? How do you approach that in a relationship?
Several variables here, Tony. Mary Alice, I noticed she's older.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question was, is she married to this guy? I mean, she been married to this guy for 40 plus years? And is this just a habit that has constantly been friction in their relationship? And she got to make a decision. All right. She's tried and she's tried and she's tried and she's tried, and he won't budge. At some point, you have to say to yourself, okay, for the peace of the marriage, for the fact that there are other good things in this marriage, I'm just going to have to live with this. Right. Now, on the other hand, it depends how far she wants to go. Let's say she's dating this guy.
Which I think is the case. She is dating this guy.
Oh, then it's very different. She can tell him, I'll go out with you, but not if you have your phone at the table. And then when he pulls out his phone, she could really take a definitive move by saying, you know what, honey, I want to talk to you. I want to share time here. But if you're going to be on your phone, I'm going to go. She can do that. I mean, they're not married. Now she might say, but I don't want to lose this guy. I just don't want to lose this guy. Well, then what she's saying is, I'm going to have to put up with this. Because if you're in a position where you can't say, here's what I'm going to do, and hopefully it will change you, then you're stuck. You better just learn to accept it. Because if he can't respond to your persuasion, you may have to get active. But if you're afraid of losing him, then you have to decide, if I get active, I could lose him. He could say, look, lady, I'm not going to have you tell me what I can and can't do. I'm 73 years old and I don't want to be bossed around. So if I'm going to be on my phone because I think you're boring, then I'm going to be on it. well, then at that point, Mary Ellis has to make some decisions.
Yep. Definitely agree. It's a tough situation, but at the same time, right? It's is someone who is on their phone all the time. Going back to this question that we had before about kind of similar to cultural differences, is right? Is that someone you want to spend your time with?
Tony, excuse me a second. I just got to take this.
Yeah, no worries. We'll wait.
Yeah.
We'll wait. It's fine.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm on this interview. Yeah, I tell you, I don't know how long it's gonna go. Yeah, well, just tell you what, call me in 10 minutes, because if he's still talking at me, then what I'll do is I'll pretend that this is an emergency and I'm a psychologist and I got to handle this problem. Like, he doesn't suspect anything. No, he's not even paying attention. Okay, thanks. Bye. Okay, Tony, I'm back. How are you there, son?
So,
now, isn't that interesting? Because doesn't that make you feel like, oh, wait a minute, something's more important than what he's doing right now with me? Oh, I mean, that's really a
hurt my feelings.
I got to see what else is more important than you, Tony.
So if I'm Mary Alice in this situation, I push my chair back and I stand up and I walk away. Right?
She could, or she could basically say, well, as long as you're going to be on the phone, I'm not going to be doing any talking, because maybe she drove there with him and she's got no way to get home.
That's fair.
Or she goes to the bathroom and doesn't come out for 27 minutes. And Mary Ellis, take your phone with you so you can have some kind of entertainment.
That's great. Looks like we have time for one more question. Is that okay, Dr. Ray?
Sure.
One more question. All right, Annie, if we can get one more question up here. Here it is. My wife, who I was married to for 26 years, passed away in 2020. How do I get my adult children, daughter 32 and son 22, to understand me dating someone new? We've had a lot of questions like this before, right? Someone who has adult children going back into the dating game again. So any advice for that type of situation, Dr. Ray?
I recently had clients who met each other, dated for about a year, and both of their spouses had passed away. And surprisingly, what they thought were adult children who would understand this, his side and her side, didn't understand it. They didn't like it. They didn't want it. This is disloyal to mom. This is disloyal to dad. How could you do this? Several things here. If the question is, how do I get them to understand? That's the harder question. Because whatever their own emotions are, whatever they're telling themselves, probably will not soften, only with time. That's one. Two, he can tell them, and I'm sure he has, but he can give it one more run if he wants to, which is, I loved your mother. She was my partner for life. Your mom passed away. Okay, I still have years of life left, and I would like to be with someone, and I met a wonderful person. Give her a chance. I'm asking you just to give her a chance. She's not a replacement for mom. Nobody can replace mom. And she knows that, by the way. Right. Now, the other thing I would do, depending upon how hostile the kids are, I've seen some really hostile kids. It's not a matter of, gee, dad, I don't understand what you're doing. It's, gee, dad, you're ticking me off, and I'll never accept that woman. Okay. Now, if it's that bad, what they're doing is they're forcing him to choose. They're basically saying, Dad, you can have a relationship with us if you ditch your relationship with her. He may have to say, that's blackmail. That's emotional blackmail, guys. And I hope you come around. That's what my client did. He told his kids, whom, by the way, he thought he was very close to. He told them, this is a wonderful woman. Your mother had dementia for many years, and I took care of her. This woman is someone I relate to well. She's a Christian woman. If you're going to do this to me, I want to tell you, I'm not going to break up with her. So you'll have to decide what you're going to do. And he said that in my office. And as far as I know, what happened was the kids kind of threw up their hands and went, well, we're going to have to learn to accept her. And the interesting thing was, she was a beautiful person. if he was just dating her, had never been married, they would love her. They would absolutely love her. The problem was they interpreted all this. How could you do this to mom? And there's a bit of selfishness on adult kids' parts who do that.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because it's obviously, looking at it from this perspective, right? From the perspective of the person who, of the widower, or of the widower, right? It's, obviously, he has many years left of life, and he wants to love someone again, right? And it's completely understandable. And then I think of like, oh, well, what if my dad tried to remarry, right? If my mom passed away, what if my dad, right? And then I think to myself, okay, that's a whole different conversation, right? Because it's my dad, right? But I think it's on the flip side, right? How do you, if you're in the situation of the kids, right? How do you learn to accept that, right?
You don't have to like it. You don't have to say, gee, my preference is that dad wouldn't do this. Okay, you can say that. But to say to your father, I'm not sure I'll ever accept her, and there will be a definite cooling of our relationship if you do this, that's blackmail, and that's wrong. Okay? And that just is. And if I were in that situation, Tony, first of all, I'm pretty convinced I would never remarry, because I told my wife, you spoiled me rotten, and no other woman could live up to the way you spoiled me. And I'll kick my coverage, okay, using a football analogy. But if I were to do that, and I have 10 kids, I think they variously accept it. Some of them would accept it easily. Some would be just like, I got to shut my mouth because I don't like what dad's doing. I wouldn't accept them dictating to me what I am permitted to do in the latter years of my life. I wouldn't. And I guess I would say, this is my personality. I would say, well, gee, I don't want to lose this relationship with you, but you're the one who's losing it, not me.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ray. We greatly appreciate you coming on. We'll respect your time and close down here. But I just want to say thank you so much. You are an absolute treat to have on. I've been wanting to have you on for a really long time, and I'm really, really glad we made it work. So thank you so much for coming on tonight.
You did cause some trouble for me, Tony. I got to tell you.
Oh, do tell.
My wife said, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "Oh, I'm going on Catholic Match." "What are you doing on Catholic Match?" "Oh, I'm just kind of floating around, seeing some profiles, looking around a little bit." I said, "Don't take me for granted, And then she basically shot me, and that was pretty much, that hurt. Okay, it was a 22, so it didn't hurt that bad. So I'm not going to give you a profile here, Tony.
Well, that's fair. You said earlier that she was on Catholic Match as well, right? So yin and yang, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Ray. Greatly appreciate it. We'll send you backstage. I'll wrap up here, but thank you so much for coming on, and God bless. All right.
My pleasure, Tony.